Okay. All right, Ronnie. I have my fingers crossed. Do you have your fingers crossed?
Yeah, and I moved my chair out the way so you can see the album cover for that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That was off your Ronnie's Back Soul Cry.
Ronnie Beck Soul.
Ronnie Beck Soul Cry. And that was Rainbow.
Yes.
Was that song. And I'm just going to do due diligence, and I'm going to watch this and make sure that okay, we're seeing each other. It's working. And I'm just going to make a little comment just to make sure. Beautiful. All right. Here we are. Now, where we left off.
Pick a spot, any spot.
Yeah, I know we've had a couple of really, once we start talking, we talk, we talk for a while. And I going to try to remember exactly what I was going for this afternoon. You are working on a new album.
That's correct.
And we were talking about that before, and there are some things that you are doing that you're going to use in your new album that are from part of your past. So that's kind of what I wanted to dig into. And so tell us about your new album. Tell me about your new album. And then I want to ask you about how all of the things that you're using to make your record.
Well, the working title is Ronnie Beck, The Best You've Never Heard. And what inspired me to do this record was stuff that I had recorded years ago, man, back in the 80s, 90s. I was writing songs and trying to play songs with other artists. In fact, one of the songs that's going to be on this project is something that my brother and I wrote for Mac, myself, Tony Lindsay, and Skylark, and those guys. We did it for the Whispers. And I don't even know if they ever heard the song. And then there's another song that's on this project that my brother and I wrote for Tower of Power, and then they passed on it. And but when they hear it, I know Mimi will say, "Hey, man," I said, "Yeah, I tried to say you that song years ago, and you guys didn't bite." So that was my inspiration. And the other thing that I'm excited about is the fact that some of the stuff was on 2-inch tape, and there's nothing like the sound of 2-inch tape. It's so much warmer and more real. I like to say that digital is 2-dimensional, tape is 3-dimensional. You can just hear the depth, not only width and height, but you can hear depth and tape much more so than digital. Now they have a lot of plugins and stuff that you can use to try to get that analog sound. I'm a fan. I'm old school. I'm a fan of analog. Anyway, that was my idea with this. I said, man, let me try to dig up some of these old songs, and I got a hold to them, listened to them, and I hadn't heard them in a while. And I said, hey, I might be onto something here. So there's a few, like maybe 3 or 4 of the songs from back in the 90s. And the other part of that is my twin brother who recently passed a couple of years ago, things that he and I had done together. And we never recorded together in the studio. We never did a project together. I mean, he played on my stuff. I never played on any of his stuff, but we never had a deal together or anything like that. So this would be a tribute to him. And also, like on my last album, I did some stuff that I grabbed from the 90s where I had done a project with my mom, who was a singer and a pianist, great jazz singer and pianist, like Sarah Vaughan kind of singer.
Mm.
And I sang with her on a song on my latest album, man. It was just a very beautiful. Matter of fact, when I was singing with her, man, I had tears in my eyes because it's just like, wow. And it also gave me another level of respect for how my mom sang because I had to match her because her stuff was already recorded. So I had to match her. So we did kind of a Nat Cole and Natalie Cole kind of thing on
Oh,
them.
really?
Yeah, it's really good.
Hey, did you start singing? Were you singing first before you played drums?
According to my mom, I was. My mom told me that I was a little boy in church, 4 or 5 years old, coming in church trying to sing along with the choir. I never knew that. I didn't really start. I started drums first, and I didn't really start getting serious about singing until I was maybe 20 years old, 21 years old. And back then I sucked. I was terrible. In fact, I had a lot of my friends would tell me, said, Beck, man, dude, you can play the drums, man, but you don't need to be singing. And that was motivation for me. Is I'm gonna prove all of them wrong. And those very same guys came back years later and said, "Hey, man, dude, you can sing." Oh yeah, well, I told you, I was determined to learn how to do it.
The so I also want to ask you though about we were talking about the early days of samples, and you were telling me that, and I'd forgotten all about this company, Emu,
Right.
and that you have an Emu machine, and I didn't know that you worked for Emu for a while,
Yeah, about
and
10 years.
and you are you using some of those samples on your new record?
Oh yeah, that's my. You know, I don't use the virtual stuff, man. I got my old box, man, and cats will say, "Man, what is that?" I say, "Man, that's some stuff from the '90s, bro." Because they were those boxes, those modules were hot back in the '90s, man. Late '80s, early '90s. All the rappers were using them because they had some really cool samples in there, and they also would have samples of actual performances. So they would take little licks, and like there were a lot of rap songs that came out with this tweet kind of squeak sound on the sax. That was an emu sample, and everybody was using it. So those little snippets, samples, definitely were embedded in the music scene in the '90s.
So you still have that, and that was one of the things that was interesting to me, because you actually helped make some of those samples, and now you're using them on your new record.
I've been using them for years. I've been using those things. I've been using these boxes since I first got them.
Oh man, and still using tape.
Well, no, I'm not using tape now. I really just took some tape, some reels of tape, and I
Mm.
still have some 4 or 5 2-inch reels, and I have about 6 or 7 1-inch reels, 1-inch 16 track, 2-inch 24 track reels of tape that I want to get all that stuff converted to digital because tape has a shelf life, and nowadays for you to get them converted, they got to bake the tapes because those tapes disintegrate, and they'll bake the tapes, and then they'll get a good run, and then they'll dump it to the digital.
Mm.
You know,
And so that's what you had, that you did your recording with your brother.
yeah, we recorded the tape. Yeah.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I still had the reels of tape, and I was able to transfer some of that from tape to digital.
Man, and what did your brother play again?
Bass and keyboards.
So when you were growing up, and your mom was a singer,
Right.
did you ever do the family band thing?
That's so funny you asked that because in our whole life, my whole family was musical. In my family, there's 5 siblings. There's 2 sets of twins and 1 single, and both sets of twins were all musicians.
Whoa.
Yeah, my brother, twin brother, and then my younger brother and sister were twins, and all the twins were the musicians. My younger brother plays keyboards and he writes and produces, and my sister sang with Sergio Mendes for 25 years.
Really?
Yeah, she was Brazil 77, 88, 99.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah, so
And so for anybody that tunes in listening, we grew up in the same state.
in the same state.
In Nebraska, but your world in Nebraska was,
State. I'm kidding.
yeah, where you lived in Nebraska was a whole different perspective than where I grew up. But
Yeah, Omaha was a city. You was a country boy. I was still a city boy. You were out there in the boonies, baby, with some cornfields and some hogs and some chicken.
right, exactly right, man. We what I got to listen to was country music.
Yeah.
Old
Country music.
Oh, the old kind that was just crying in your beer music.
Yeah. That was some
Oh,
good stuff though, man.
well, some of it. Well, you know what? We talk about you and I were talking about this, about grooves and drum grooves, and we were talking about when you got to Tower of Power and the difference in drum grooves and what you needed to try to emulate when you were doing that gig. But, and I want to get to that. But when the difference in trying to do a country groove compared to an R&B groove and some of those other kinds of grooves that we talked about yesterday, that country groove is a real thing of it in and of itself that is
Absolutely.
kind of hard to emulate.
Well, I did a country gig, man, back in the early 2000s for 3 years, man, and it was more the new country, because to me the new country is kind of a fusion of country, old country, what we used to call country and western, and
Right?
it ain't country and western no more. It's just
No.
country.
Yeah.
But it to me it's kind of a fusion of 80s, 90s rock and country.
Uh-huh.
And now they're even mixing hip hop and country, so it's crazy.
Oh, right.
But the thing about country, man, in that gig, they had two big dance floors there, man. They had all these line dances and stuff that everybody's doing, man. So they were very strict on the drummer, man. The tempos had to be right. You had to play it right, man. Because those dancers knew.
Hey,
The country dancers, the line dancers know, and they want the drummer to be on point. So that was a good experience for me to learn and really embrace that style of playing, and it helped. I enjoyed. I ended up enjoying that part of it. I hated the gig, but I enjoyed what I learned through that experience.
well, let me ask you, because this was really big in Nebraska and the Midwest. Were and did you get
Still
into
is.
well, but not the country that when I was a kid, it was ballroom dancing, but big bands. So when you grew up and were getting into music, describe that a little bit to me and the first guy you took lessons from.
Well, the first guy and the only guy I ever took lessons from was a guy named Luigi Waits, who was like the guy in Omaha. And
Mm-hmm.
matter of fact, Luigi used to play and when my mom and Luigi played together. So Luigi taught me and my twin brother Donnie drum lessons, and my mom taught his daughters piano lessons. So they did a little trade thing. But
Wow.
Luigi has taught some, most of the great drummers that came out of Omaha went through Luigi. What's his name? Lewis
Lewis, um,
in New York.
yeah, the jazz guy.
Yeah. What's his? I can't think of his first name now. I know it's history.
Yeah, I've been trying to think.
Victor Lewis.
Victor Lewis.
Victor Lewis. Yeah, Victor Lewis. We all grew up right around the same area. We all took lessons from Luigi. But Victor and those guys, Lester Abrams, uh, before he started playing keyboards, he was a drummer. And they stayed with it, man. They learned to read and really got very learned and studied about drums. For me, most of my experience was by ear, and I I don't really regret, but I wish I had have really learned to be a better reader because I missed out on some occasions because I didn't read as well as I needed to read. But I still managed to get some gigs where I've gone on the road and had a book of charts and stuff, and I say, hey, you guys got to give me a tape or something here because I ain't the greatest reader. But I was after I did it more and more, I was starting to get pretty good at it.
Well, this is what I didn't really know, because this was a little bit before I was in Aurora and a little younger than this time period. I think I was listening to music when of some of the guys we were talking about, and there was actually a pretty great music scene in Omaha
Oh yeah,
that I didn't know about, that you were part of with what, Buddy Miles and that whole group of guys. Was Buddy Miles from there?
Buddy Miles from Omaha, Stimsy Hunter, Henry Red, Herbie Rich, all those guys.
I mean, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was the late '60s, early '70s. That right in that time frame a little bit.
Actually, the music scene there, the Renaissance period there, I would say was from like 1957, 58 through 1973.
Mm,
It was a good stretch of period there, and especially when I was there in formative years for me were the late 60s and early 70s. I left in 71.
mhm.
But at that period, especially in the late 60s, man, there were a couple of spots in Omaha, which were part of the Chitlin circuit, man, and all the guys came through there, man. And especially organ trios. Organ trios were a
Mm.
thing back then. They call it what do they call it now? Soul jazz is what they call it now.
Oh, right, right.
But then it was just the organ trio. It was the organ, guitar, and drums. Jimmy Smith, Jack McDuff, Big John Patton, Grant Green, all those guys came through Omaha, man. And not only that, man, we also had a serious R&B scene in Omaha, man, where and that was a little before my time. Those places had closed by the time I was a teenager. But the Dreamland Ballroom used to have the big bands come through, man, and they would go dance and stuff there. So there was a music scene, you know,
Mm,
where serious musicians. And the other part of that is this: Omaha is kind of in the center of the United States. So, and railroads, as you know, were huge back in the 30s, 40s, 50s
right.
in Omaha. And you would get people going from Chicago to Denver, they stop in Omaha. Or guys going from Minneapolis to Kansas City, they stop in Omaha. So you had this cross section of cats going north and south and east and west. They come through Omaha, man. We had all of these great musicians that we could go see live. There wasn't no YouTube then. We got to see the real deal. In fact, we were too young to get in the club, so we'd stand outside the club and listen to those guys. And then they'd have the back door open. We'd listen through the back door, and then we'd try to sneak in until they kicked us out and watching these A-list musicians in Omaha.
And there was a jazz. What wasn't there a lot of jam session kind of things going on?
Exactly. That was how I got my start on the jam session, the Sunday afternoon jam session. And the spot in Omaha was Allen's Showcase Lounge.
Mm,
And it was right in at the apex of the neighborhood, of the black neighborhood in Omaha, which we called the Deuce. And that was 24th and Lake. And the showcase was there. And then up the street from the showcase was a place called Patrick's. And those were the two spots that had jazz. And we were youngsters, teenagers, wanting to learn. Plus, you know, the guys that were older than us, they were already in the music scene, like Buddy and those guys, and Herbie and Stimsy. And matter of fact, Hank Red, who was in the 70s, he was the musical director for Stevie Wonder for a lot of years. And he lived right across the street from me, Hank Red. And
wow.
he has since moved back to Omaha. But a lot of guys came out of there, man. Cracking those guys, Les
Yeah.
Williams and Les Smith and Rick Chudakoff and all those guys. We
Right.
all went to school together.
Well, and you were just telling me the other day that the guy I had on Monday, Robbie Dupree, who wrote that song "Steal Away," did it with
Rick Chudakoff and those guys, yeah.
from Omaha.
And Rick's from Omaha. Went to Central High School. We went to the same high school.
Man. You know, it really is in a lot of ways when you dissect the music world that is relatively in that pop, the guys, you're really only one phone call away from somebody. You
That's
know what I
true.
mean? It's not that big of a world.
Well, it's regional too. In each region, there's guys. Like in
Mhm.
Detroit, they had their guys. Chicago had their guys. Omaha actually had our guys. LA has their guys. New York has their guys. You know, New Orleans has their guys. Memphis has their guys. So there's regions all over the country, and there's guys
So,
and girls.
right, right. Well, this is one thing that I want to ask you. So, what do you think? How Omaha definitely had its feel and its sound compared to, because we both talked about the Oakland sound and how that feels. Is there a way that you could describe that Omaha thing? Because I think it's from that time period when you were forming with Buddy Miles and that, because I don't know if a lot has gone on since then. Do you was there a
Omaha, you mean?
yeah, in Omaha, was it, how would you describe that sort of sound? Was it more R&B or
Well, the Omaha sound from our neighborhood was definitely an R&B thing. You know, it was. It was like it was kind of like Chicago, but it was a little bit more sophisticated. Matter of fact, when I first came to Oakland back in the early 70s, guys would say, "Man, you got that Oakland sound." I said, "No, man, that's the Omaha sound." And what we were listening to was James Brown, and we were listening to that Southern Soul thing, the Stax thing. So that was kind of what we emulated, and that was our version of R&B or funk. and the way the grooves were played, the way the drummers played, man. One guy in particular, man, that we all idolized was James Gatson.
Mm,
Gatson played with Bill Withers, and he's played on a million records, man. He was like a top call LA studio drummer, you know. And his style of playing, man, was just ridiculous, especially when he was with Dyke and the Blazers. There was a group back in the 60s. And man, those cats were funky as hell, man. It's like a whole matter of fact, last time I played with Tower, they did a Charlie Wright and 103rd Street Rhythm Band tune. They did Express Yourself. And James Gaston was playing drums on that. So there was another sound, and it was a syncopated thing, and Tower kind of emulated that too. And Mimi will tell you himself that their thing, they came from that syncopated R&B thing, James Brown kind of thing, and then Tower took it to another level because Tower was just, it was much more sophisticated.
right,
More
right.
range. It was very tight and very precise. You had to be precise. That was one of the main things that most people, and to this day, they still recognize how precise and accurate those cats play, man. And that was
Mm,
different than James. They were inspired by James, but Tower's horn section especially was way tighter than James's horn section. Yeah, but the rhythm
yeah.
sections were about on par with each other, man. But yeah, that whole sound. But the Oakland sound or Omaha sound, I'd say in ways are similar. And one of those reasons is because a lot of that came out of the church.
Mm-hmm.
In the black community, the church was where cats learned to play, and that's very much so today because they got a whole gospel scene with these young cats that are coming out of the church now, man. Some ridiculous players, man.
Yeah,
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 church.
yeah. So there are some church guys that unbelievable, unbelievable chops.
Yeah, and it's about chops, man. Matter of fact, I was talking to a guy out of church. He said, "Yeah, man, we listen to James Brown and Chick Corea." I said, "Okay, that's an interesting combination."
Yeah, right.
Chick stuff is very precise and but it's very sophisticated. So they got the funk from James, but they got the technical side from Chick Corea and those guys and Weather Report and those kind of guys. So that's their
It,
background.
when what made you decide to leave Omaha?
Um, I had a choice, man, because I really wanted to play music, man. And when I left Omaha, I left a scholarship to go to college there, man. And my grandmother was begging me, son, just get your degree, then go out there. And I said, no, I got to go now because Buddy and those guys that went out there and Stimsy, they left in the late 60s, man. And they had this big record that they did with Mike Bloomfield. They were called the Electric Flag, man. That record was hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the group. And I wore that record out, man. I said, man, my heroes are out there in California making records, and it was calling me. So, and at that time, it was the music scene was starting to wane a little bit in Omaha in the late '60s, early '70s. Man, it wasn't like it was those. Man, I'd say maybe 5 years from '65 to '70 was really the peak of the
Mm.
music scene there, at least during my generation. And those guys had left, and they were making records and stuff, and wearing the bell bottom pants and paisley and tie dye and all that kind of stuff because that was hot back then. And I wanted to do that. And my brother and my twin brother got in the car with a friend and drove out there. And I said, man, he left me there. And I said, man, I'm going to California. I'll see you. A few months later, I came out there and I haven't looked back.
Then when you got to California, what was your first gig that you got that you did that was cool? And what led you to the Bill Withers and Bobby Womack and all of those kinds of gigs?
Well, I came when I first came to California, man. There was a band around here, some white guys. They were called Blue Magic, and there was a black group on the East Coast called Blue Magic. But these are some white guys.
Well, is it the Blue Magic? Didn't they have a? Oh, I'm thinking that did they have a hit?
No, they never. They had a deal with Liberty Records that they never finished the record. In fact, Sandy McKee, the drummer
Oh,
that ended up playing with Cold Blood.
yeah.
Well, Sandy had left that group, and they needed a drummer, and they fired their organ player. So our friend that had come out here said, "Hey, man, I'm with this group, and they need a drummer and an organ player." My brother and I were a drummer and an organ player, so we came out and joined that band, and that lasted for a minute, but. And we were excited about it because they had a deal with Liberty Records, and they had done half the record, and they had heard some of our music that we'd done in Omaha, and they were trying to shop our songs, and we were going to get to finish the record. Well, that never happened. So I ended up in San Jose, and my first gig that I would consider a real gig was in Oakland. In fact, in the '70s, I spent most of my time gigging in Oakland because Oakland was the scene.
Hmm.
San Jose had a music scene, but nothing like Oakland. Oakland was the black music scene for sure.
Right. And what was the first gig that got you like, okay, this is why I came here. I'm really glad that I made the move.
That was in Oakland with a brother named John Turk, man. He played organ and trumpet at the same time.
Uh-huh.
Badass. And then my partner, one of my best friends, a brother named Clifford Coulter, who was a great organist himself. We had a trio. John was playing the organ, Clifford was playing guitar, and I was on drums. We all three sang. That was the gig, man. It was on the Strip in Oakland on Broadway, and and this was during the Superfly days in the early '70s. All the ladies of the night and the players and the pimps and stuff was coming to our gig. Cats with the big hats and
Oh,
platform shoes. I mean, it was like a movie. It was in the club. We played 5 nights a week, and it was packed every night. I said, "Oh, this is it."
heaven. That is
It really was, man. And I was a young man in my early 20s, and I'd never really been around that level of music. And a lot of guys were hanging out, man. Like Gaylord Birch was hanging out.
hmm.
Gaylord was a phenomenal drummer. He played with everybody. Uh, and they're just Larry Graham and those guys were around. The Pointer Sisters actually came and sat in on our gig before they got their deal. And they used to come and sit in on our gig on Sundays and sing their asses off. The
See,
Pointer Sisters.
so let me ask you. I have this my own perception of the heyday of music in creativity and everything is between 70 and 76. Like, and maybe a little bit past 76, but I think what you're describing is would be, mid 70s, right?
I would stress that for me it would be 68 to 76.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And the creativity and everything that was happening at that time, especially in the Bay Area, was
But it was
unbelievable.
happening all over the country, man. Like we are talking about regional things. Okay, the Ohio players, man, those brothers came out of Dayton, Ohio.
Mm,
And those cats were hot in the early '70s, man. So there was a music scene, and the San Francisco sound was like um, Jefferson Starship and Jefferson Airplane at that time, and all those guys, man. And Deep was it Purple? Was it some one of those groups? But man, it was San Francisco had its own little kind of more of a hippie rock thing going on. Oakland was more of a black R&B thing going on, and that during that same period, and it ended in '76 because of disco.
mm,
Disco killed R&B. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely killed that creative renaissance that we had from like I would say from '68 to '76, and even to
Mm.
'77.
What was the first tour that you did?
The first tour I did was in 1973 with the Coasters.
Really?
Yeah,
Whoa. What was that like?
it was great because we were young and man, I'd never been on the road before, and we were on the road, man. Dude, we had a a van with a trailer hooked to the back with all our equipment in the back, and then we all rode in the van from city
Yeah.
to city. And it was so funny, man. I remember we did an East Coast tour, man. We're driving, and we take turns driving. And we used to always get to the city that we were going to, and the first place we would go would be to the club to see what the venue was, and then we go find a hotel that was close to the club, and that was the routine. Let's find out where the club is, unload your gear, go find a hotel, get some rest, and then go do the gig. Then after the gig, you pack your stuff, put it in the van, go drive the next day. And yeah, the coasters, man, it was the West Coast coasters. It was Cornell Gunther's coasters.
Mm.
In fact, there was a guy named Walt Cohen that was managing them. He was booking those guys, man, and we were gigging up. And matter of fact, we did some gigs with Dick Clark's Cavalcade of Stars. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and those were pretty good gigs. And we got to meet all the people, man. The Shirelles, Shirley and the Shirelles, and the Coasters, and Clyde McFadden. So all those '50s, early '60s groups, doo-wop groups. Dick Clark was taking all those guys on the road, so I got to play in the backup band for the Coasters, man.
Wow, that's really cool.
Oh, it was pretty cool, man. The money wasn't that good, but it was a great experience because we got to see the country. We went back. We even went to the Virgin Islands and did a 3 week gig down there. That was incredible. And we went to the East Coast. My first time going to the East Coast, New York and New Jersey, upstate New York and stuff, and Pennsylvania. We did Evansville, Indiana. I mean, we were doing the Midwest, the East Coast, and with that gig, and that lasted for a year or so, and then the money got funny. Matter of fact, the last gig when we all quit the band is we had played in Detroit with the Coasters, and it was like a whole maybe 6 acts: the Platters, the Shirelles, the Coasters, the Drifters, and a couple of other groups, and it was at Cobo Hall in Detroit, and the first night, the house band's drummer, who was playing for all the other acts, the Coasters were the only ones that had their own band, and then they had a house band that played behind everybody. Well, the drummers was an older guy, and his back went out, and they asked me to back all the other bands up, and I said, "Well, yeah." And plus, I made some extra money that week, but I worked, man. I played all night. Like I guess we were there for about 4 nights, so I played behind everybody for those 4 nights. It was great.
Wow, that's really fun. I that would be I think that would just be fun. I would really like to do something like that. That would be cool.
It was cool, man. I met them, all of those guys were older, man. I was a kid, man, 21, 22 years old. And they're
Yeah.
like, and, they were kind of excited to see me because there's this young guy and he understands how to play that style of music, and I did. That's what I grew up on. I learned the old stuff first, man. That's what I teach young guys today. I said, man, go back and do your history. And that's something that happens in the church too. The guys go back and do the history and that they can have a foundation, man, because music didn't start in the '80s with hip hop. Music's been
Right.
forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, and so as that was happening, and you were in Oakland and getting into that scene, doing some of those, were you doing some recording and different things too?
I was doing some recording. As a matter of fact, my buddy Clifford Coulter he had a deal with ABC Impulse Records, man, and he was going down to LA to do a session for John Lee Hooker. And he asked me if I wanted to go. I said, hell yeah. Plus, you can get a ticket from San Francisco to LA for $12 back then. So we went to LA, man. I was hanging out one of the famous studios in Hollywood, man, and I was in there with all these guys, man. John Lee Hooker. And on this particular session, Joe Cocker shows up.
Joe, uh,
Dude, it was amazing. Joe Cocker walked in with a bottle of scotch in one hand and a Budweiser in the other. Okay. And John Lee Hooker said, Joe, you gonna sing something? And Joe said, hey, yeah. And then he asked me, boy, what you play? I said, I play drums. He said, you want to play? I said, yeah. I was just hanging out. And then I'm sitting there playing the drums, man. And matter of fact, Wawa Watson, who played on a million records, was on the session. And I mean, these was like the LA guys. And Joe Cocker's standing over there singing. And this is John Lee Hooker's record. And I'm playing on it. And I'm looking at these guys. And then there were some other sessions that we did in LA where like the A-list cats, studio cats, horn sections and stuff were coming in because they got hired to make the session. But yeah, that was in like 1971, my first recording session in LA.
what did that just was that cool? I mean, I'm thinking
Oh,
you
dude, I was on cloud nine. Were you kidding? I came from Omaha, and 3 years later, all of us, no, in fact, it was 2 years later, I'm on a record, making a record in LA. And my grandma said, go to school. I said, no, I couldn't miss out on this.
no.
I came to San Jose in 1970, and a year later, I'm in LA making a record for a major record label with John Lee Hooker.
Man, that's so cool. I'm going to ask you to turn on your light though, because it's
Oh,
getting
yeah,
a
it's
little
gotten
dark.
dark.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. All right. Thank you. All right. So I mean, Joe Cocker was pretty big at that time, wasn't he? Because
Man, Joe Cocker was the truth, man. This cat, he was amazing.
he And
This was in
did
the early 70s. This is before You Are So Beautiful, that song that he did, that Billy Preston wrote. This
yeah,
was before that. And he was hanging out, man. He did with Mad Dogs and Englishmen, that album during that period, right in the early 70s. And this cat was in there singing, man. I mean, just the spastic thing, just and man, he's killing it. And I'm over there on the drums looking at this guy. I said, man, I'm in heaven. I can't believe it. I'm in LA and there's Joe Cocker. There's John Lee Hooker.
yeah,
This guy, that guy, and Clifford, my buddy, turned me on to that, man. And I was just hanging out. Then
man,
they called me back.
wow,
Yeah, bring that young boy back with you again, man. What was his name? Ronnie, what's his name? So yeah, I'm on a couple of John Lee Hooker records, Free Beer and Chicken, and You Never Get Out of This Blues Alive. Those two albums
mm.
back in the early 70s.
And then when did the Tower gig come?
Well, that was an Oakland thing. Now, Bruce Conti, who was the guitar player after Willie Fulton, and Bruce to me was the guy in
Mhm.
Tower. All the signature shit, Bruce was playing guitar on it. And Bruce, in fact, the guitar player, we had a white guy playing with us when I was in Oakland named Billy Burgess, man. He was a great guitar player and a great singer. And he was taking lessons from Bruce Conti. So Bruce used to come to our gig in Oakland when they were in town and sit in. Because with Tower, everything is arranged, so he didn't really get to play and stretch out that much. So he used to love to come to our gig and just hang out. And little did I know that he was watching me. And in 1974, David decided to leave the band, and they were looking for a drummer. And Bruce was out scouting musicians. In fact, Bruce helped find Chester Thompson back in the early 70s before he joined Tower Power. So Bruce was coming to our gig, and he asked me, hey, man, David's leaving the band. You want to audition? And to be honest with you, Jeff, I was really into the band that I was playing with John Turk. Our band was called the Third Street Annex. We had the hottest band in Oakland at that time. And if it hadn't have been for the fact that me and John got in an argument on Sunday night on payday, because he docked me and it really upset me. And I cussed him out, and he sent me a telegram and fired me from his band. So I didn't have a gig for a couple of months. But in the meantime, right after I got fired from John's band, was when I got the call from Bruce, said, hey man, you want to audition? And Bruce gave me the albums. He told me which songs to learn and stuff. He said, man, do this. So we'll probably do this and do that. So he really helped prep me for the audition. And then when I auditioned, the night I auditioned in San Francisco at Studio Instrument Rentals, where the band used to rehearse, David was there because David would come back to finish their last two album obligation they had with Warner Brothers because they were getting ready, they were shopping and looking for a new deal. And he came back to do the In the Slot album and the live album, which were the last two albums they did for Warner Brothers in 1974
Mm.
and 75 actually. And the night I auditioned, man, David was there, man. I was nervous as hell, man. And he says, hey, man, you Ronnie Beck? I said, yeah, you David Garibaldi. We shook hands, and he said, yeah, man, I heard about you. I said, what? I said, David Garibaldi's heard about me. Apparently, Bruce had kind of said, hey, man, I got this sketch you ought to check out. So David was there. And David walks up to me and says, hey, man, you got this. And dude, that calmed me. I was nervous as hell. But when he told me that, I was able to relax. And I had the attitude after that, like, I can do this. This is gonna be and I needed a gig. I didn't have a gig. This is my gig. That was my mentality. After David said, man, you got this, and he gave me that vote of confidence, I went in there, man, I was playing loud as hell, man. And Chester said, hey man, we have rehearsal, you don't have to play that like us. I figured these guys are playing on big stages, so I gotta play really, really loud.
Mm.
You don't have to play that loud, bro. Turn it down a little bit. So 3 weeks later, I get the call back, man, from the road manager. He says, hey man, the guys like you. The gig is yours if you want it. And I said, hell yeah.
Nice.
That was my introduction to Tower Power, man. And that was a blessing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about that yesterday, and what it meant to play in the band because in many ways it's really stylized because the band it has a really unique sound
Mm-hmm.
and a pretty unique feel, and what Emilio said to you about how to play the gig.
Mimi told me, he said, man, I want you to play you, but you're gonna have to learn David's stuff, man, because the material was really built around the way he played drums. So to do that gig, you actually had to learn David Garibaldi's stuff. And I said, I think I can do that. And I did my best to learn David's stuff, man. And in fact, the time I was in the band, all the guys in the whole band, even at rehearsals, man, they would say, man, Ronnie, man, we love the way you play, man. We love the way you play David's stuff. I said, really? I said, yeah, man, you playing David what David plays, but you playing it your way, your own way, and we really like it. So, man, I'm like, whoa, yes, I'm in.
Yeah,
And it was a
yeah.
beautiful thing, man. The other thing I have to say about my experience with Tower Power, and I have to pay homage to Emilio, aka Mimi, is I got exposed to the record business at that level on a major label, where things are done legit. You got W-2s and you're getting your union
Mm,
scale pay and all that stuff. I mean, it really making some money. And what he allowed me to do was, first thing is he allowed me to write. Is he asked me, man, you got any songs? Because time to record. So you got any songs you want to submit? See if the band will do them. And I did. On the first record I recorded, Mimi allowed the band to record a song that I wrote. It was terrible, but he 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 welcomed me into the band and he let me get a song on the album because everybody was fighting to get a song on the album because most of the material was written by Coop Teo, which was Steve Kupka, the Funky Doctor, and Emilio. And the other guys were scrambling to try to get a song on the record. Mimi and Doctor always had at least 4 songs on there, and then there was 4 slots open for the other guys to try to write something. And he let me get a song on the first album, which I still get royalties for. And he also gave me the opportunity to have voice in the studio, and
mm.
and it led me to become a producer, which is what I do a lot of now, man. Is working with other people and listening to the music and helping to interpret and finish projects. And that
Right.
exposure I got from at the highest level, man, with Tower of Power.
That's a band that would be, and from my experience with them and being such a fan, I can't imagine you not being able to learn something, and uh, because of how they do things. And you took that, and then since then you've been doing a lot of your own records and your own recording and your own songs. And this is what a lot of people, I don't know uh, how many people know you as a singer, because
They're starting to know me as a singer
right.
now.
Um, you know what? Do you mind your hat turning your? Let me. Yeah, I went a little. There we go. Yeah, I just want to see you a little bit more.
Yeah, the lights over here
Yeah,
just kind of got shadows. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but I knew you as a drummer. I didn't really understand the depth of your singing. And I have to admit, I was like, yeah, Ronnie, yeah, the drummer, yeah, man, it's cool. But now I've been listening to you sing, and I was even telling you, I sat and listened to your record, and your your vocals are great. And you auditioned. Did you audition for Santana as a singer?
I actually did, man. As a matter of fact, I have to go back to Tower Power on the singing thing. When I was in the band, Mimi wouldn't let me sing at first. He said, "No, man, I just need you to play drums." I said, "Yeah, man, but I like to sing." And the first year or so I was in the band, I didn't get to sing. But then he finally let me start singing, and he saw that I could play and sing and still keep the beat. Because I've been doing that most of my life, playing and singing at the same time. And he says, "Man, you can do this." I said, "I told you I could sing and play. I'm not gonna mess the band up because I'm singing. I can do both." So I was grateful for that as well, man. And a few people knew, my people that I grew up with knew. But even then, man, when in my early years, man, uh, I was saying to maybe 1 or 2, 3 songs a night in the club gigs. And matter of fact, we were in Sacramento in 1973, man, and what made me really feel like I could sing. I was singing a song by Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, "If You Don't Know Me by Now."
Oh,
And I was back behind the drum singing, and the club was packed, man. The club was packed 5 nights a week, and another gig where we had with John Turk and the Oakland guys. We went to Sacramento. And this particular Saturday night, I was singing the song, man, and women started screaming. And I was like, oh my God, were they screaming for me? And when I sing, I try to sing, and I'm singing from my heart, man. And also, man, I'm trying to get attention because I'm on the drums and I'm behind the band, and a lot of times people can't even see me. And they say, "Who's that singing?" And they finally see it's me. So I'm singing to try to project and get attention. And I finally got it in Sacramento. I said, "Oh my God, those women are screaming for me." That was when I decided I will always sing and play.
Mm, mm. And then I actually have I have a picture of you. Well, let's see if I can find it. Singing on stage. Is it in there? Oh man, where'd it go? I swear I thought that I found a picture of you singing with Tony Lindsay.
Oh yeah, that was probably at back we were at, that's where I think it's from. That was at in San Francisco. Oh, Biscuits and Blues
Mm,
in
mm.
San Francisco near Union Square. Yeah, that's a hot spot in the city. And Tony had called me to play the gig on the drums, and then I got to sing with him. Matter of fact, Tony likes to play drums, and he came behind the drums, and I got out front and sang. Hold on,
Really?
I got to close the blinds.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So how is Tony at playing drums?
Tony can play.
Really?
Yeah. He's got good timing. Tony, when he was with Santana, man, he played. We were in a band together in the '80s, and Tony he used to play congas and sang.
Mm.
Yeah, Tony has very good timing, good rhythm, and even when we were in the band together, he used to play drums in our band in the '80s, and I would come out front and sing, and get house, and he loved getting behind the drums, man. He really liked playing. Tony likes to play the drums. And he's a decent drummer.
And you actually like being in front of the drums and singing? Do you
I
like that?
like being in front of the band and singing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I have my own band now. So I have a drummer that plays with me. I'll play my drums and sing, but toward the end of the night, I come out front, man, and my drummer plays, and I get to be out front, man. I've always had a desire to come out front and see what it looks like from the front of the stage instead of the back of the stage.
Yeah, yeah.
That
And
was a transition too, I have to tell you, because I've always, and a lot of guys, a lot of my friends, good friends, always said, man, we like the way you sing, man, but we like when you're singing from behind the drums. They weren't used to seeing me out front. So the last 20 years, man, I've been trying to learn how to sing out front and how to front the band, because that's different.
it does feel different, huh?
There's a different responsibility when you're fronting the band.
Yeah. You have to be, you have to lead from a different way.
You have to learn how to engage the audience. You have to also be in tune with what's happening behind you. And the part I like about it most, man, is that you can engage the audience, man. I love to be able to look at people and talk to them and touch them, and they touch me. So I like the intimacy of being in the front of the stage. But again, there's a responsibility. You got to be comfortable, because guys that come out front and girls that haven't done their homework and don't really know how to take ownership of the stage.
Oh,
Who's your crowd? You have like Larry Braggs. I love Larry Braggs with the tower, man. Larry and Marcus is really good too.
yeah, Marcus.
Now, those guys take ownership of the stage, man, and it's like you follow them wherever they go on the stage. And I also appreciate a lead singer that respects the band, that he doesn't just try to overshadow the band. That was something that I've seen happen a few times, and there's even seen videos of guys that don't respect the band, especially when it is a band and you're the singer for the band. It's not you and your band, it's the band and you're the lead singer. So when it's that, to me, it's important that the singer shows the respect for the other bandmates. I really I'm all about that. It's like, no, I'm not up here by myself. All of my guys, y'all get spotlights on all of us.
Mm. So if I had something here from your last record, your DNA record, that was your last one.
Yeah,
Just
came out last year.
Yep. What would you think would be I should play that Yeah, I haven't listened to this, but what, could I play like Shadow of Your Smile or something like that?
Well, that would be amazing because that's straight up jazz, and that's my brother and I, my twin brother and I, and that's one of our. That's a stellar performance by my brother and I. To me, that we recorded that in 1998, man, and it's just yes, I'd be very pleased to hear it.
Right. And you're singing this.
I'm singing that. I didn't play on that. My brother played all the instruments on it. All I did was sing,
Oh,
and we had the drum machine on the song.
okay. I'm going to play Shadow of Your Smile and take a listen.
It's a long song.
I'll bring it down a little bit halfway through, maybe.
All right, there you go.
The shadow of your smile when you are gone will color all my dreams and light the dawn. Oh, look into my eyes, my love, and see all the lovely things you are to me. The shadow of your smile when you are gone will color all my dreams and light the dawn. Oh, look into my eyes, my love, and see all the lovely things you are to me. A wistful little star was far too high. A teardrop kissed her lips, and so did I. Now, when I remember spring, oh, all the joy that loving you, girl, can bring, I will be remembering. Oh, shadow of your smile. Now when I remember spring, oh, the joy of loving you, holding you, kissing you can bring, baby. I will be remembering the shadow of your smile, of your smile.
Ronnie, that is beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh, are you there?
I'm here. I was
Right.
in the zone, man. Like anytime I hear something that my brother and I did,
Hmm.
uh, and I had to put my hat on, man. I don't feel
Oh,
complete without my friend, baby.
okay.
I'm sorry, brother. You just gonna have to accept the
Okay.
childhood and the time.
That's fine. The piano playing is beautiful. But I gotta say, Shadow of Your Smile is really one of my all-time favorite standards. I mean, it's just beautiful, and the way you were singing it was great. And I want you to know Fred Ross is watching, and he's really jealous right now.
Oh, remember, Fred, he ain't got no reason to see. Fred can sing higher than I can. So, Fred, you got your territory. Leave me. I'll stay in the basement, brother. Fred, he can tiptoe. He can go up on the second floor. I might have to stay
Right?
in the basement.
Oh man, that was beautiful.
Thank
That
you.
was beautiful. Now, on the next record that you're working on, is it some of a lot of this same kind of thing?
No, it's not. It's more R&B and more funk. You
Hmm.
know, that one I threw it in there just, and I have to say, man, my records, the last couple of records, man, have been kind of eclectic because I like to kind of exhibit the different styles of music that I play in real life, man. I don't just play one style of music all the time. You know, man, if you're in a wedding band or something, man, you can play anything from the Shadow of a Smile to Happy, you know.
Right. You got to be able
There's
to
a
play
wide
everything.
range of music. So, like on this record I'm working on now, man, I have one song that's kind of a country blues. I have another song that's a Latin kind of thing. I have some other stuff, man, some kind of jazzy, not jazzy, but kind of funky, little hip hop kind of stuff in there, man. So I just do different styles, and I'm throwing them all together on one record, man, and just trying to reach a wide demographic, man. Matter of fact, I recently come in contact with some guys down in the Carolinas, in North Carolina, South Carolina, and in Virginia, in the Southeast, and they have a thing there called it's a beach music scene.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, are you hip to the beach music thing?
Yeah. So how would you describe the feel to beach music? Because some people think they know, but they don't really know.
Well, from my understanding of it, and I'm still learning about it myself, it's kind of it's a spinoff of Motown stuff. It's kind of about dancing, and they have
Hmm.
a certain tempo that they like things, and it's kind of black music that's danceable. Is what the beach music scene is.
And
It's
would
part of that Southern soul market down there, but it's a very uh, unique group of people, and mostly middle-aged, older white people. I was asking the guy the demographic. He said 38 to 80.
38 to 80.
Yeah, but it's all about dancing and people having fun, and it lends itself to the title, beach music. So you're on the beach, have fun, and that's what they do. And they have a strong society, and it's a group of people that will follow your career for as long as you're doing stuff.
Mm,
That's exactly where I want to be.
mm. Would you say the tempo is about the Mustang Sally kind of tempo?
Well, there you go, right there. 110 between what is it, like 108 and 120.
Yeah, and that really is the pocket of good dance music, really. And we were talking about grooves and feel, and uh, in that, if somebody would say play me a good funk groove, that's kind of where you go, like 110 right in there, right?
One
That's
115, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Disco is 108 and 120, 125. But
It's
there's all it's between 108 and 125. Those are your variable dance tempos in there.
but and then the other thing we talked about is the difference between eighth note funk and 16th note funk.
Well, hence Tower Power versus um, Ohio Players or Average White Band. Ohio Players Average White Band was more eighth note thing, and then you go to Tower Power, man, and there's a 16th syncopation, and they
Mm,
were unique in that, man. And it's funny too because the time I was in the band, the record label was really trying to get the band to cross over. They said, "Man, you guys need to have a big hit," and they were saying our music was too syncopated. They wanted us to simplify. So that was my kind of mind. I said, "I'm going to play the backbeat." because David played all around the backbeat. I said, I'm going to play some music on this record that has a backbeat because we were trying to sell records. But in reality, their longevity has been that unique syncopated style that they have, because that's what everybody wants to hear. They don't want to hear Tower Power play disco. They want to hear Tower Power play what they play.
That's true. And Tower Power, that sound really is their sound, and nobody else can really do it and really emulate it.
No, not like them. No,
No,
they monopolize that.
right? Yeah. Those guys have that sound, and it's pretty much their. That's it.
They own that territory. There's a lot of groups that try to do it, man. And there's guys, like Snarky Puppy and those guys.
Yeah.
Their stuff is even more sophisticated than Towers. But Tower definitely, they had their own niche that they created for themselves, man. And it's served them for 50 years, man.
Yeah. And for your style of drumming, though, it's that that's where you feel the most comfortable. That eighth note kind of laying it down pocket.
Well, I can do both. I mean, as a result of doing the tower gigs, the syncopation and the 16th notes has become part of my style. I was very young when I was with that band, and my style developed as a result of my experience with that band. I understand the laid back, and like they say on the left side of the bar playing laid back on the groove. We talked about that. But also there's a place to have both, man, where you can do, and the guys, younger guys are doing that now, man. They'll stay right in the pocket, but then they go somewhere else and like crazy, and then they come back. I mean, they're doing double and triple time fills, and then they come back to a laid back pocket. So that's how they incorporated it now. Whereas with Tower, they kept the syncopation, and David, they had that busyness going on throughout the whole song. But now it's more, you have a home base, which is your laid back pocket, and then you can go wherever you want to go and then come back. And I kind of tend to do a busy pocket is what I'll call it now.
Busy pocket. But it really comes down to the groove. I mean, it really is if people are going to enjoy the music, it's really all about the drummer. Okay, I'm sorry, I got to say it. It's really all about the drummer.
Well, the dancers, it is definitely that, and I agree.
If the drummer can't put it where people can feel like they can move, it's not going to happen. That's just an opinion.
It's been said, as goes the drummer, so goes the band.
Yeah.
You've never heard a great band that didn't have a great drummer. It just doesn't happen. If the drummer ain't happening, I don't care who you got up there. If the drummer's not happening, the band's not happening.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I just want to just reach back now just for a second, because since we're both from Nebraska, when you were a kid, did you have dreams of being where you are today? Did you, before you left, you think, someday this is really where I want to go, and this is really what I'd like to be? And now that you look back, you're going, oh my God, I did it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And yes, I did. That's why I came to California, because as I mentioned earlier, man, I had our heroes and our mentors had just left Omaha and came to California making records and touring the world. And that's what I wanted to do. And I was able to do that, man. And it didn't take me that long to get where I was trying to go, man. Omaha in 1970, and by 1975, 5 years, man, I was doing my thing big time.
Yeah. Man.
So, I'm living the dream. I'm absolutely living the dream. It was a dream that I had as a young teenager, junior high school. I got serious on the drums when I was 14. And I say from 14 to 21, man, I was in my formative years, and I really put in a lot of time on my instrument. But after I had 21, 22, I started playing those clubs and gigging, man. I was there. And I got to where I wanted to go. That was my dream, and I realized my dream. And I still dream and aspire to do things, especially as a singer-songwriter now, to get some recognition at this point in my life still, man. I want to be a 50-year overnight success.
Well, But you know what I really like though is this idea that we were talking the other. You and I have spent so much time talking in this last week. I feel like I know you so much better that you're looking and having these younger guys play in your band. And you were telling me about that and that you want to stay young and all of that. And you're writing songs and you're singing, you're fronting the band. This has got to be, well, I'm just thinking really fun to be able to do that and break out in a whole new way, like you just said. Sort of like,
I mean, you're absolutely right. And I'm not trying to be young because I know I'm older, and I also know that there is a market for older guys. It's not so much in the United States because it's a kids market here, man. But what my thing is right now, man, I try to embed myself in this younger community, man, so I can try to stay relevant and understand what they're listening to and understand what they resonate to as younger cats in their 30s and stuff, not 20s or so. And I do hang around. My grandson is in his 20s, man. I'm hanging with those guys and listening to hip hop and stuff. And then my guys in my band are from their 30s to their 50s, but they again, I try to stay with the younger guys because they're still hungry, they're still doing things, and I'm still hungry and I'm still trying to do things. Most guys my age are just kicking back, man.
yeah, well, like Fred Ross.
Fred's still hungry, man. Fred is definitely still hungry.
No, Ronnie, I got to tell you, I have this thing with Fred that I cannot ever mention his name without giving him a really bad time.
Well, that's Fred. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all right. So you understand where I'm coming from.
Just as well as you do. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So I just had to throw that at Fred just because I know he's watching.
Tony Lindsay's like that too, man. Tony is hustling. Fred's hustling, man. We're in our 60s, man. And we ain't done yet.
No, and that's what I was going to say, because there's a handful of you guys in the Bay Area that really are good singers. And there is room for your voices. And there's really not. Now, I haven't been in the Bay Area for 12 years now, but I know Tony and I know Fred and I know you now as a singer. And there's a couple of other guys, but there's not a lot of great singers that are coming up as far as I know.
Oh, no, there's
is there?
Out there. Oh, dude. Go to Oakland. Next time you're in the Bay Area, go hang out in Oakland. Hopefully the club scene will be back open, man. There's some good singers around San Jose. Dude, there's a lot of hell. Go on YouTube.
Oh,
these kids, man, they're doing some ridiculous stuff. Now there's a whole nother level of singing that the young guys are doing, but what's missing is the history. And that's kind of the purpose that I'm serving, man. I'm trying to get involved with some people here locally, and we're trying to start this mentoring program and an education thing where we can expose the kids, these young college kids and stuff, and high school kids, to like the history and where this music that you listening to, where it came from, man. Because I believe that history is your foundation, and you can build from that. But you need to understand and know something about where that music came from, and actually know some music. Because nowadays you can make music without really knowing music because of computers and stuff. You just have to have a good ear and have a pretty good imagination, and you can put stuff together. But if you learn the music and you don't necessarily have to learn theory and all of that stuff, the technical side, but you do have to understand certain nuance to the music, what instruments do what, the function of instruments, the function of individuals in a band setting where there's 4 or 5 guys in a band and they each have their own role, and how that works and how all of that comes together to make what everybody listens to. It ain't just a beat and some lyrics. It's more to it than that.
And
so the history of it.
And the thing that I would like to add that you have and can bring to people is, especially, as much trash talking as I do about the state of Nebraska, there, we talked about that a little bit too, but there is some real history in Omaha
Oh yeah.
that you are bringing to the table that time period is living on through you, that you can bring and teach people too. That is some of that history musically is, and from that 65 to 72, 76 time period in the Bay Area, all of that. I mean, musically was a time that has been unmatched, that there's so much history from everybody in those times. It's really good for kids to learn that and be able to be taught that from people that actually lived it.
And that's exactly right. And that's what's missing from a lot of places now too, which is what we had in the 60s was we could actually go see those guys play, go hear a live band.
Mm.
It's not as accessible as it used to be, man. Every band was live. I mean, there were no DJs.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because we talked. I was talking to somebody, and it may have even been you, about being able to see so much stuff on YouTube. Right? You can watch and learn. That was you, wasn't it? You telling me about learning the David Garibaldi part or something? Maybe it wasn't, but you can learn all this stuff on YouTube. You can look and you can watch and see how everything is played. Right? When we were kids, we had to slow it down. That was you. We were talking about slowing down the cassette tape, trying to learn a part.
You couldn't slow it down.
Right. So the one thing that you cannot get from watching YouTube is going and sitting next to a guy and feeling how he feels when he plays. Because that's every bit as much of the groove as it is just learning how to play the notes.
And I would call that the soul of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Technical aspect, and you can get the technique and you can emulate what he's doing, but it's the soul is what you get by that actual interaction, human interaction, man. That you can't get from YouTube.
Right. So you can learn that the advantage we had as kids is being able to go sit and watch guys, but just and feeling them and interact, just feeling the crowd and feeling where they put their drums, and you could actually feel the music pulse through your body. But now you go and you watch it on YouTube, you can get the notes, but how do you know how to make it feel that way?
Yeah, and that's a very good point you make, because not only because of the human interaction, you also get to see how people respond to what you do.
Mm.
And there's a lot of artists, young artists that are out there that never really get that like live stage experience. They may have done a few talent shows and sang in church and stuff like that, but that experience you get from actually being at a live gig and actually seeing how people respond to what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
you actually know what you can do that works and what you do that doesn't work, so you don't do that no more. And it's just that is very important stuff. Like there's a lot of the young artists, man. My kids have told me that they've gone to see artists that they paid $100 tickets for and stuff, and it's like it was a bust.
Oh.
Because those guys go and they learn how to go make really good records and write great songs and stuff, but they don't have that stage experience, man, that you actually get from being out there gigging and doing clubs and doing that stuff, and that those you climb the ladder and learn how to actually perform. And then some of those kids are skipping that.
It's almost like the performance and how you channel your energy or radiate and perform to get a response is what you learn from doing all those club gigs and stuff.
It's OJT, on the job training.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. So look, Ronnie, look, this is really fun. We've talked for almost an hour and 15 minutes, and it's been completely different than every conversation we've had. And it's been great.
That means I have to do this again.
Uh, I think every time we've talked, I've learned something more, and it's been even more fascinating because I learned more about Omaha. I learned more about you and about how you play. So before I've had your ronebeck.com, your internet, your website up here, so people can find your music there. They can find your music on iTunes,
Amazon, all the streaming sites.
all those.
Bottom
And
line.
so
Matter of fact, you guys go out there and at least one or two of you download it and then share it. But somebody pay for it first. Everybody don't steal it.
I actually paid for a couple of songs.
Well, there you go. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Hey, man, you know what? My computer's about to shut off because it's giving me a signal. It's a low battery.
Okay. Well, that's a good warning sign because we had our issues this afternoon. So let me play something. What should I play off your new album? What do you think? What would you like me to play us out?
You can play the first song on the new album, Chocolate Love.
Done. Okay. Ronnie, thank you for being here and talking with me. I so appreciate you.
And I will just say one thing about Chocolate Love, man.
Okay.
It's not about sex. It's about everybody loves chocolate. And at this time of what's going on in America right now, y'all need to eat some chocolate and y'all need to appreciate your chocolate. There's dark chocolate, there's milk chocolate, there's caramel, there's white chocolate, and they all taste good.
And they're all sweet.
They're all sweet. Love on each other. Stop being so divided and dug in and left and right, red and blue. There's more colors in the rainbow than that.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Jeff, we'll do it again, man.
All right.
Thank you for letting me keep my hat on, man.
All right. You're welcome.
The world needs now is love. It's something we can all hold on. Oh,
everybody needs chocolate love.
everybody.
Lord, you know we need chocolate love.
Like I do.
Everybody needs chocolate love. Lord, you know we need chocolate love.
Think about how you feel when you're tasting it. You all know the chocolate's real.